Shalom, this is Rabbi Reflects on the News, Volume 2. Northwestern University is giving all their incoming freshmen Northwestern water bottles. There's been a whole hoopla on the news lately about the problems of drinking bottled water you purchase in a store, the cost of transporting it in terms of energy, the proliferation of water bottles that are not recycled but fill up our landfills. Better to have an unbreakable water bottle that you keep refilling. Our synagogue now has them with a synagogue little motto and the website on it. Interesting. People should think about energy all the time and conservation. In that regard, the Tribune, Chicago Tribune, had an editorial the other day endorsing nuclear power again as being in the mix, and it's safer and more efficient. And I don't know all the details about nuclear power, but I do know that one of the top priorities has got to be reducing our dependence on fossil fuel. First of all, it's harming the environment. The papers yesterday said China has only 1% of its cities that are breathable air, and there was recently a marathon there and the runners couldn't finish because the air was so bad. I don't know what's going to happen in the Olympics. And so if nuclear power is safer and more efficient, as the Tribune says, maybe we need to consider putting that in the mix. The other main problem, of course, is that the Arabs have most of the oil, and and Venezuela, the dictator there, and the Soviet Union is, again, the main countries with all the oil are pretty dangerous and are hurting the West, and that's another reason to be more independent of foreign oil. Another story, there was an economics professor named Rich who retired and talked about how instead of people being sick of economic classes because of all the math and statistics, he always tried to teach a few basic principles and said from those few principles you can learn so much economics. It's like the old Jewish idea from the Talmud of a Gentile coming to the great sage Hillel and said, "Teach me all of Judaism standing on one foot." And Hillel said, "What is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. All the rest is commentary, go and study." Basically, love thy neighbor as thyself. Guinness Book of World Records says that Sri Lanka, there's a man there who stood on one foot for 74 hours. You can teach a lot in 74 hours. But how do you boil Judaism down to a few basic principles? Well, you can see my video on what the Jews believe. That's Maimonides' 13 principles. Or the great prophet Micah, who said it's to do justice and love mercy and walk humbly with God. The great Talmudic teaching, the world depends on three things: on Torah, on serving God, and on good deeds. Our synagogue motto is to live, to learn, to live, and to love Jewishly, God and your fellows. So boiling things down to a few basic principles. Next story. Google has this new thing where you can type in an address on one of its sites and you can see through satellite imagery basically into your front yard. And so people are saying, what about privacy? Well, from a Jewish perspective, God can see into our hearts. And so we're always worried about what other people can see, but we should be worried about what God can see. God can see everything. Two more stories. An Oxford philosopher named Nostrum, one of the great philosophers of the world today, believes there's a 20% chance that this world is not real, that we're part of some supercomputer's reality game, and that we're really made of silicone, but that we're so sophisticated that we think we're real. 20% chance. Now, whether that's true or not is fascinating, and the question comes up philosophically, then why behave? Maybe just because hopefully that the person who did the programming has the same moral value system that we do, or we should, and therefore want to stay around. But I was thinking about that in terms of the high holidays, because our machzor, our prayer book that we use, basically sets that up. It's an imaginary game of drama that we are the main character in, and we're hoping that God will judge us for a good year. Now, some people believe it's literally true, may well be, but certainly from a dramatic point of view, we are in this drama to really see if we can live another year by assessing our lives and repenting. Finally, Illinois has a new tough first offense drunk driving law. If you're convicted of drunk driving, you're going to have to install at your own expense a machine in your car that you have to breathe into before the car will start. I read that story in the week in which we read about unlawful combinations in the Torah of you're not supposed to wear certain kinds of combinations in your clothing, wool and linen, that ox and asses are not supposed to plow together because they could hurt each other. 2 weeks before that we read you can't have milk and meat. And so I'll tell you two things that don't go together: drinking and driving. Rabbi Reflects on the News, Volume 2, Edition 2.